Okay, so the power of thinking big, I guess, it's a really good question that a lot of people have been asking, and no one really knows a definitive answer because of the nature of thinking big in the first place. Because it has to derive from you. As the person that's inside of your own being, you are the thing that has to control what happens in your mind. And to give you a context here, or rather a rule that everyone should follow before trying to think big, is to put in this rule or standard that the subconscious is always inferior to your conscious mind. Meaning, if you have some sort of emotional overtake, you want to maybe do something that you don't usually like doing, your consciousness should be the prioritized thing that determines whether you take that action or not. With that context in mind, we can start to then begin talking about thinking big. Because without this, your thinking won't actually change. You won't be able to consciously or quickly change your thinking. Because you're so intertwined with the lizard being, is what I'll call it. But basically, the thing that acts off of emotions subconsciously, which is actually much more prevalent in women than men. But obviously it's regarded as okay in women compared to men. So men, if you're listening, listen up. And this is to the point where men are becoming too close to that animal being if you're in that category of people. So the first step you have to do is figure out how to get your subconscious to be inferior to your consciousness, so then you can prioritize bigger thinking and the benefits you can get from it. Now that we went over that, I can begin to talk to you about the benefits of thinking big. For starters, if you were to enter any scenario, right? I don't have to make one up and then lead you down the path of, oh yeah, well obviously thinking big is better here. Like, I'm not going to do that to you. What I am going to tell you though is that when you're in one of those scenarios, actually try to think big. Actually try. And thinking big often leads to thinking positive too, which those two are connected in a good way, where you'll get the desired result of whatever thing you are trying to do. So think big. And when you get into a scenario, the best example I have is a fear. When you have a fear of sorts, you often, like most people's innate reaction, because it's like a survival instinct that we've carried on, is what things fortify this fear. Because in your natural mind, or I guess we'll call it the natural mind, the lizard mind, it's the same thing, right? It's subconscious stuff that's back of the brain stuff, right? So in this back of your brain, fear is this. The reason why you want to confirm your fears is because if you think about it, when you were walking out and you found a bear, right? You'd want to make sure your fear was confirmed and consolidated as an actual fear and not just, oh wait, what is that? Like a squirrel, for example. Like the difference between a bear and a squirrel. If a squirrel had bear-like strength and then it came up to you with aggression, you're going to be like, wait a second, what? I thought this thing was okay. Because fear is this adaptation that we got to make sure that anything that was a threat was actually a threat. And we always confirmed with ourselves, why is it a threat? Oh, because it has big claws. Oh, because it has this. Oh, because of the big strength, right? So as we learn to consolidate these fears over however many years, whatever your timeline of human beings is, because for everyone's different from what I've learned, you start to understand that, oh, I do that myself when, okay, my fear of, I don't know, maybe like, whatever your fear is, right? Because I can't come up with an example right now. So whatever your fear is, you're going to automatically start accumulating ideas to reinforce that fear and to help you understand, yep, that's my line, that's the line where it should be drawn. But instead what happens is we start getting these involuntary fears of just simple daily life tasks, like maybe brushing your teeth or going to work. You start getting these what did I say? Or involuntary fear. Yeah, you start getting these involuntary fears, which guide you in a bad direction when you repetitively reinforce yourself about them. Hence, this is basically the definition of thinking small. So now going back to thinking big, what we want to do is to be able to look at this fear and say, what is the thing that is actually holding this fear in place? Is there actual value in this fear? Does it benefit me? Because 99% of the time, that benefit is no. Is it a benefit for you to be fearful to talk to your family about personal problems? No. Is it beneficial to look at a bear, this is like the 1%, and realize that that is a threat and that thing can kill you? Yes. So keep in mind, there is very rare circumstances where fear actually is a good thing, but it's just, we don't know, as people, we don't know how to control our environments to not have fear injected into them accidentally on random occasions. So what you get is a psychological development towards the wrong route that you never really wish to take. Even if you want to take that route, you never knew that you are going to take that route, which is the more dangerous part. Because obviously it's like driving on the road and you don't know what defrost is. That happened to me before. But anyways, I'll go into the story here. So when I was driving home from a soccer practice of mine once, and it was like kind of cold outside. It wasn't even like it wasn't like winter cold, but it was like cold enough where defrost would come up on the window. And I actually didn't know that there was a button to like get rid of the defrost. So I'm basically sitting here hunched over like this, like basically just staring through the windshield, trying to figure out where I am. I almost crashed like twice. Yeah, so that was fun. But so yeah, make sure that if you don't know where your defrost is in your car, you ask someone about the defrost in your car. All right. So, or at least have someone else find it, or you find it, whatever. So, getting back to my point here, is that thinking big allows you to overcome even problems like that, where, okay, if my defrost isn't working, what should I do? Now, idiot me was too panicked at the time, and I didn't really know about thinking big, so I was just like kind of driving. I mean, I was driving okay. It wasn't like, I mean, I almost crashed twice, but it was like, when I'm like driving straight on the road, it's fine. When it came to turns though, like the stress levels really up. It's just like everything was like panicky. Like it didn't have that controlled, smooth motion like I have with my hands right now. It's just like it's very smooth. It's controlled, and if I'm going to some place with my hand, I know, okay, yep, going there, and it like all makes sense. It all comes together. But leaving off with that, thinking big would have allowed me to say, okay, I can actually just pull over on the shoulder and then call my parents to figure out where, because I was like in their car, and figure out where the defrost is so I don't crash, right? And a lot of these events probably happen in your life too, if you look back on it and you start to understand that, oh yeah, these things are where I thought small. So this is a way to actually prevent that from happening, even though it seems very like arbitrary and not connecting, but it actually makes sense when you do it. So now getting into the actual benefits of thinking big rather than just like what to, or like why to avoid thinking small, is that when you think big, you allow yourself to open up the door for solutions to any problem, right? If you look at a problem and your first thought is I can't do it, then you're going to it's going to be a fear, and it's going to be reinforced by what I was talking about earlier. Now, if your first thought is how do I get through this, then you start to get reasonings for your mind to be like, okay, we can do this, 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 and this. And then it comes together, you solve whatever problem it is. Right? So next time you run into a scenario like that, where it's a quality problem that you should worry about, right? I like this thought before you use a lot of your your brain power to really make sure that you get something done right. Is, would an important person think about this? Ask that question, and if it's yes, then yeah, go ahead, pour time and quality into solving that problem. If it's a stupid problem that really shouldn't be bothered with, then no, don't do it. With that, I'll give you a few examples in my life where thinking big actually helped me improve my own, I don't want to say I want to say, improve myself, but it's kind of what it was, so I'll go with it, right? So the other day, actually yesterday, is a really good example where I was, I have my living room's right over here, and sometimes I'll set up some cones and I'll do a little bit of dribbling drills because I'm a fan of soccer, I like the sport. So I was doing this, and then I was just wrapping up and I was picking up the cones, and my dad who's sitting right over there, he asked me, or he kind of challenged me, and he said, I want you to pick up all those cones at once, from my feet, and be able to lift them up, because there's 10 cones. So he wants me to stack them all up and then pick them up and then catch it. And then I was like, okay. I tried it at first. I was at it, and it didn't really work out too well. And then my dad's like, oh yeah, that's damn near impossible. So I told him, my immediate response was, okay, and? Because I've used that big thinking to realize something being impossible doesn't really, that's a better reason for you to actually do the thing, right? Now, a lot of people often say that, because you probably heard this about 500 times. Sorry, my mouth's real dry. But, so, when, people, they say it, about 500 times, but really, it doesn't make sense to you until you actually do that thing, until you actually have an example of doing that. And then, with my mindset, my dad actually, I saw his, I was able to observe his mind open up, and he told me, okay, maybe get your toe in the middle of the cone so you can lift them all up easier and have more control. Now, I did succeed at it, if you're curious, but that's not the point. The point is that big thinking infects just like small thinking. If you're around people who think big, who believe that they can do whatever thing it is, that can actually put that into a part of their identity, that's how you get somebody who really comes to you and who really reflects what you want to be. And that's how you get around an A-tier player, right? If you know, I mentioned an A-tier person in a different video, that's why I mentioned that here, but you should get the idea. Another example, right, is my public speaking. So this is before I started recording videos, so I guess my public speaking wasn't exactly the best, but it was a lot worse than what it is right now. So I'm thankful for that. And I had this opportunity to join this group. I'm not going to name the group because I don't want to do free marketing for them, because they already have their own thing. They're doing it for schools or whatever. So I was definitely more of a shy person, and I wasn't able to express my differing tones when I spoke. I was very monotone, and I was just oh, hey. Even if you go back to my previous videos, you see that. You'll see the monotone me just going, blah, 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 and I make good points. I recommend you do watch it through. I do make good points, but it's I'm not able to connect to the audience as well as I can now. And obviously 6 months from now, I'm going to be looking at myself like a clown, but that's a whole different thing. So, anyways, my public speaking journey was when I was in this class, there was like 7 people. It was like, this like teacher wanted me to do a speech for like a like a kind of like a group thing for the organization that we met up in New York City. He wanted me to do a speech for that, but first I had to speak in front of like 7 people, and that was in the classroom. There wasn't many kids in this class, so I spoke in front of these people, and they noticed my monotone. That was like one of the first things they noticed. They're like, "You make a good point, and you look okay, but it's just your monotone," and that really got to me because I knew myself that I had a good point, and I think they could see it too, but they just couldn't see that I was able to convert this into a more pleasant and more eventful type of message that I could get to many people. And so I worked on that, and eventually I made a better speech. Right, I spoke at New York City still. I did a decent speech. That time was in front of like 40 or 50 people. So it wasn't like, because it wasn't like an auditorium or anything. It was kind of like it was some weird like rooftop bar thing. It was very strange, but that's besides the point. And I spoke up there, and it really changed my perspective because having that gravity of so many people getting your attention at once, I was used to that. I was used to being able to get a group of people to look at me and I say something. So I knew that I had the ability to get to people and show them my big thinking, is what essentially it is. But I just didn't have the tone for it in a speech kind of mode yet. So I worked on that. I got better at it. I like thought about it some more, and I did better things to adjust that. And now I can talk to people in a really cool way. And I really appreciate that because that's a valuable skill, especially in this society. Like, there's a reason why I started this, right? Because if for example, if filing taxes was like a really valuable skill to have, which I mean it kind of is, so, but like you can get TurboTax for that, right? If something like that is a very valuable skill at an individual level, I'd be doing that instead, right? But I understand that recording videos and this big thinking ideology are things that are very impactful to your skill set for the rest of your life. I understand that because I can look at these people that have succeeded and I can say, okay, they all have this. I should probably get it too. It's a simple equation. Real simple. But minus that point, thinking big is it's a really cool way to also help you connect with other people. And eventually I was able to speak in front of like 200 people in this auditorium, and that's the first time that I've actually been nervous. Like, I'll admit to it, I was nervous then because I like improvising my speeches, and so improvising speeches in front of small people or small amounts of people is easy, but when you start to improvise it in front of an audience of like 200, it's a really different feeling, you know? So if you ever get the opportunity, though, I would definitely recommend you do it. It's really cool. You get to be able to, like, you can evaluate how your displaying skills of yourself is. Like, can you sell yourself to other people? And I don't mean that in, like, the negative connotative way. I mean that in, like, do other people get your vision, right? That kind of message. You get the idea. So, and now going back to the point where I made earlier, I said thinking big is also thinking positive. And the reason why it's also thinking positive is because when you literally think of something in a bigger picture, you start to understand, oh yeah, wait a second, I can actually do this. People have done it before, I can do it too. Or even if, oh, I don't think many people have done this, or even if they have done it before, but I think there is a way to do it. There you go. If you say that last sentence I just said, I think there's a way to do it, you open up the door to your mind saying, okay, I'll support you. Let's figure this out. And it would be even better if you said something like, I know I can do this, right? It sounds really like corny and stupid, but you get this idea of when you're thinking big and you're believing that you can actually get something done, it's a lot more probable that you will because your mind's supporting you. And when your mind supports you, your body follows suit, you end up taking action. And taking action is what really is obviously the big driver of getting that confidence up in the first place in yourself. That's because basically what this all encompasses is self-confidence. Because if you can't raise your self-confidence, then you can't raise what you believe and what you think to a higher level. So the first step, think about it. All like entrepreneurs and business people, at least, like that are very, very successful, they say that the first thing you have to do is to be able to believe in yourself to do something. Because otherwise, your mind's going to resist you and say, okay, yeah, that's why you can't do this. That's why you can't do that. That's why you can't do this. And then you're left with nothing. And it's like, you boxed yourself into this. Like, my face does not encompass this one eye. It encompasses the whole face, right? So why are you limiting yourself by saying my face only consists of this one eye, and if this eye is bad, the whole thing's bad? It's like, no. You have all of this, too, right? There's one problem, though, that I'll get to. And it's the whole, like, positivity message, right? Now, first thing that probably came up in everyone's mind is, oh, body positivity, yeah. But it's like, okay, whatever. Yeah, that too. But the problem is that in modern society, they totally messed up the positive message. The positive message, especially towards, like, thinking big and whatnot, it's totally been, like, kind of, like, softened down to, like, oh, you can do it. But, like, you can tell that the way they say it is fake. You can tell that, oh, this guy, they don't give a fuck what I do. They're just there to be like, oh, wow, you can do it. It's like, really? It's like, who are you? Who are you? That's the main question you gotta ask, right? Like, even for someone like me, right? If you're taking advice from someone, the first question you have to ask is, who are you? And are you qualified? Quite frankly, I'm almost qualified. But I'm gaining my qualification through realizing this stuff from other people and then converting it with my own thoughts into something that I believe is valuable to you and valuable to myself too. Because keep in mind, even if you're not the altruist, oh, I'm gonna go do this for everyone else, that's okay. That's fine. Most people aren't altruist. That's why it's like a really rare characteristic. And if you don't know what altruist means, because there might be someone out there, now I'm not saying like you're stupid, but I'm saying there might be someone out there who doesn't, and if they don't, it basically means like you're trying to save other people, like your purpose is to save other people, which, fair enough. But even if you're not feeling, or if you're not even feeling altruist that day, you can say to yourself, okay, I'll still make this video, or I'll still make whatever, or I'll still do my job, so that way I can maybe figure out something about myself. Like, I'll still do it with full effort, is what I mean. Because, like, you could do it with minimal effort, figure out nothing, and be stuck there for the rest of your life. That's seen in the past generation now, like, with almost everybody. But you can go, oh, okay, yeah, so maybe I don't feel like this today. But what I can do is, because I know that I'm such a good big thinker, since I know I'm very positive, I know I'm all these things, if I don't feel altruistic, I can at least use that and put it inwards so I can figure out something about myself that I didn't know yesterday. Boom. That's it. That simple. There's legitimately nothing else that could be more outlined to you than saying, okay, let me figure out something different, and let me figure out if that thing is good or bad about me so I can change it in the future to get a more positive, successful result out of myself. And obviously that differs depending on what goals you have, right? If you're trying to be a scientist, you really want to be able to focus 100% deeply on your task rather than having to also pick up the skill of social as much as like someone who is creating content, right? So there's obviously different purposes for different goals. But I want you to know that if you so I'll recap this video now. What I want you to know is that thinking big allows you to get past your fears. It allows you to solve problems that you thought were unsolvable. It allows you to figure out things that are in yourself and in other people to help them. And it figures out how to really do anything that you think is puzzling or challenging. It allows you to open your mind to have your mind actually support you in your solutions rather than shut you down. Because what fear does, as we discussed, is that it shuts down the ability to ask these questions, to be able to find some sort of creative answer, because you said, no, it can't be done. If it can't be done, then how's someone done it, right? It's like the people that hate successful people, it's like they don't make sense to me. It's not like I hate them back. It's just it doesn't make sense. Like from perspectives, I'm sure, of people that are successful, it's just for them it doesn't make sense. Obviously they ignore it for starters because they're just a negative dimwit who's not successful and doesn't, you know what I mean? So you don't actually affect their lives in any way, and you're not doing it in a positive manner, right? Because they understand that if they're infecting people with positive mindsets, they're able to actually grow a lot stronger, especially if someone else says it, right? So there's that part too. And thinking big is overall just a way more beneficial mindset than thinking neutrally or thinking small or just like limiting yourself. I'm not saying you can be at anything, because you can't. You have to be something. You have to be focused on something. If you want to be high quality at something, like I can't go find Mars. I'm not good enough to find Mars, right? I mean that like more of like a different, like an Elon Musk, like live on Mars, I guess, right? So I'm not good at figuring out that stuff. He is, right? Because he put lots of years of practice and skill into that. I'm good at running because I ran for such a long time, and I still kind of run. It's just I kind of do it in different ways now instead of actually just running. I want to do run again though, because my cardio's like garbage. But anyways, so that's the recap of this video, and I hope that you come away with this thinking bigger than you did 20 minutes ago, and that you gain some sort of value that you want to spread to other people. And if you do, just send them the link or explain it yourself. But if you don't think you can explain it well, first of all, you can. But also, if you want someone to get a more in-depth guide of explaining it, because maybe you have better things to do, maybe you have to go to work, maybe you're on your lunch break, then go and do that. Go and just link them the video, and then that'll explain it from there. Anyways, as always, we're here to help you help them.